This is a continuation of the reading of Plymouth Plantation, and we're picking up on page 8 of the story. And of this in the time of most distress, there was but 6 or 7 sound persons, who to their great commendations, be it spoken, spared no pains night or day, but with the abundance of toil, and hazard of their own health, fetched them wood, made them fires, dressed them meat, made their beds, washed their loathsome clothes, clothed and unclothed them, in a word, did all the homely and necessary offices for them, which dainty and queasy stomachs cannot endure to hear named. And all this willingly and cheerfully, without any grudging in the least, showing herein their true love unto their friends and brethren. A rare example and worthy to be remembered. 2 of these 7 were Mr. William Brewster, their reverend elder, and Miles Standish, their captain and military commander, unto whom myself and many others were much beholden in our low and sick condition. An understanding with the Indians, 1621. All this while the Indians came skulking about them, and would sometimes show themselves aloof off, but when any approached near them, they would run away. And once they stole away their tools, where they had been at work and were gone to dinner. But about the 16th of March, a certain Indian came boldly amongst them, and spoke to them in broken English, which they could well understand, but marveled at it. At length they understood by discourse with him, that he was not of these parts, but belonged to the eastern parts, where some English ships came to fish, with whom he was acquainted, and could name sundry of them by their names, amongst whom he had got his language. He became profitable to them, in acquainting them with the many things concerning the state of the country in the east parts where he lived, which was afterwards profitable unto them, as also of the people here, of their names, number, and strength, and their situation and distance from this place, and who was chief among them. His name was Samoset. He told them also of another Indian, whose name was Squanto, a native of this place, who had been in England, and could speak better English than himself. Being after some time of entertainment and gifts dismissed, a while after he came again, and 5 more with him, and they brought again all the tools that were stolen away before, and made way for the coming of their great sachem called Mazoet, who about 4 or 5 days after came with the chief of his friends and other attendants, with the aforesaid Squanto, with whom after friendly entertainment and some gifts given him, they made a peace with him, which hath now continued this 24 years in these terms. 1. That neither he nor any of his should injure or do harm to any of their people. 2. That if any of his did hurt to any of theirs, he should send the offender, that they might punish him. 3. That if anything were taken away from any of theirs, he should cause it to be restored, and they should do the like to his. 4. If any did unjustly war against him, they would aid him. If any war did against them, he should aid them. 5. He should send to his neighbors confederates to certify them of this, that they might not wrong them, but might be likewise comprised in the conditions of peace. 6. That when their men came to them, they should leave their bows and arrows behind them. After these things he returned to his place called Sowams, some 40 miles from this place. But Squanto continued with them, and was their interpreter, and was a special instrument sent of God for their good beyond expectation. He directed them how to set their corn, where to take fish, and to procure other commodities, and was also their pilot to bring them to unknown places for their profit, and never left them till he died. He was a native of this place, and scarce any left alive besides himself. He was carried away with several others by one Hunt, a master of a ship, who thought to sell them for slaves in Spain. But he got away for England, and was entertained by a merchant in London, and employed to Newfoundland and other parts, and lastly brought hither into these parts by one Mr. Dermer, a gentleman employed by Sir Fernando Gorges, and others for discovery and other designs in these parts. The first harvest, 1621. They began now to gather in the small harvest they had, and to fit up their houses and dwellings against winter, being all well recovered in health and strength, and had all things in good plenty. For as some were thus employed in affairs abroad, others were exercised in fishing, about cod and bass and other fish, of which they took good store, of which every family had their portion. All the summer there was no want, and now began to come in store of fowl, as winter approached, and which this place did abound when they came first, but afterward decreased by degrees. And besides waterfowl there was a great store of wild turkeys, of which they took many, besides venison, etc. Besides they had about a peck a meal a week to a person, or now since harvest Indian corn to that proportion, which made them afterwards rightly so largely of their plenty here to their friends in England, which were not feigned but true reports.